we deciphered everything, well, you know, then we can calculate the key. I left out the actual calculations in this talk for brevity and not to bore you with too much mathematical formulas and stuff. But you can read that in the paper version. It's not hard or anything. I just didn't want to put so many formulas on the slides. So well. So you will get, if you do this, if you decipher a long sequence of text, you will get a series of 10-bit words, and well, you can just look at them. You can just see when do they start repeating, and which is the bit pattern that appears in a certain place of the 10 bits. You know, each bit is generated by one wheel, and so you will see which are the bits that are generated and when do they start repeating. And that is, at that moment, then we know the complete machine state. And just as a note, indeed, if you would do this, you would find that the wheel patterns that you derive in this way, not the patterns, but the periods, I mean, the number of bits on the individual wheels are indeed co-prime, which maximizes the total period, as I mentioned earlier, and so supports our assumptions. Because otherwise it wouldn't. It would be unlikely that the numbers would actually appear so conveniently co-prime. Okay. So at this point, we're actually done with the machine. We've derived. Well, we knew it was a 5-bit Bodo code teleprinter. We've established that it's an XOR cipher followed by a random permutation, and we know the bits are provided by pinwheels, 10 pieces of them, and we know the patterns on the wheels, and well, at this point, it's also easy to figure out that the QEP numbers seen earlier, they provide initial positions for 5 of the 10 wheels. It was 5 numbers. If you don't recall, 5 numbers given before the message, and they would set the initial positions for 5 of the wheels. This is pretty obvious, and the rest of the state, that is, which wheels were controlled by the QEP numbers and what their initial positions were, these are part of the secret state that was changed through a different channel, like once a day or once a week or something like that. So that would be the static crypto variable, and the secret part, and the QEP numbers are kind of the varying part of the crypto variable for each message. So at this point, you know exactly what to do if you get one of these messages. You just initialize the 5 wheels with the given numbers, and then you can mechanically decrypt the whole message, just as the real machine would, once you've discovered the rest of the state once, for the until they change it. But they would, you know, it changes once a day usually, or something like this. So that's so that allows us to do what the Swedes did. They promptly built automatic decryptors, like, you know, put a machine together that, and you take your team, and with every day they would start getting these intercepts, and once they have enough of them with the same key, they would start this manual process, which is a little tedious but would get done in a few hours, and then you deduce the permutations and the patterns on the wheels, and these actually didn't change, it turned out, but still you have to check. And then you know everything, you initialize your own machine with it, and then you just have to, for each message, type in the QEP numbers and type in the ciphertext, and it would spit out the clear text. And this is exactly what they did quite successfully for a time. Yeah. So this wraps it up, really. So just to conclude this talk, what I wanted to show was that, well, cryptanalysis is not necessarily only black magic, but well, you can have success by just taking a bunch of experience, which is, you know, they decrypt these code books and just try it in the beginning. Just try doing the same thing that they did with the code books. That is, looking for repeated sequences of characters in the intercepts, and they actually had success with it. So you take this experience and you take some intuition, of course. Which is like, you know, making the right assumptions at the right places. Well, if you lack intuition, you'll just have to be a little more, you'll just have to need a little more perseverance. This is the other important thing, which is, you know, you don't give up. They just these strange-looking intercepts come in, and you just try something what you already knew without knowing anything about them, and you find that it works, and then you reason. You do a clear assumption, and then you follow through, like making deductions from that, and you say, well, if we assume this, then it would have to show the characteristic of a stream cipher, and then you check, oh no, it isn't one, but it looks a little bit different. Then you make another assumption. This is just clear reasoning, and well, being perseverant in the sense that when you're hit with something like, oh, it isn't a stream cipher, you don't give up, but you say, well, what can we learn from that? And then you get your success in the end. So this is, I think, a little bit interesting, and like I mentioned, this is, well, it's being a stream cipher, it's kind of comparable to wireless WEP things, so yeah. I hope this was kind of interesting thing. And for the at the end, let me just give you the references to the two books. This is based on, this was actually written by me for a university course. Based on these books, one is called Codebreakers, and the other one is called The Geheimschreiber Secret. Geheimschreiber, that's what they usually call these machines. T52 is the official name. Geheimschreiber is, in English, is secretly writer thing. So this is by Frode Weierud, which is also the guy who wrote a simulator for these machines, actually. I just found this yesterday, which you can download and run and see the machine in action. I've also put this link on the Fahrplan page, so you can just look it up there. Where you can also get the slides and the paper version of the talk. Yeah, so this is these are the two books. They give a lot more detail. They give historical accounts, and they also go into detail about the later versions of the machine, which were harder to break. You see here T52D. This is version D of the machine, which is already a little more advanced. That's what the books also talk about. Yeah. So yeah, thanks for listening. And do you have any questions? No questions? Okay. Thank you.